Let's introduce quickly what Dash can do, right? So maybe some of you haven't seen what is Dash before. So good examples can be found in the gallery here. And for example, this one I think is my favorite one, which is a oil and gas explorer. And of course, we're not able to do this level right now because it's a quick introduction, but definitely you have all the tools necessary to do this. And also you can reach out to me if you need, you want. So basically it's like very interactive. You hover and it shows a graphic on the right side. So also it has our other graphics here. Maybe, oh no, this one you cannot. Oh yeah, you can select here and change all the graphics. So this is basically what Dash can do for us to show like interactive and intuitive web applications for data visualization. So let's get back to the getting started. And my first, what I want to do first here is to run our like Hello World app, which is available here also in this tutorial. Basically, I just wanted to copy and paste this and show you how to run the app, and then we can start building from that. I already did that. Change the name for Argonauts here. I don't know if it's the name that people use here, but so to run this app, basically go into your folder and type Python and the name of the app .py. So I name my app.
Adriano,
Yes.
before you do that, I see that you're running a server, right? Or no, you're not. Oh, it runs the server when you do the Python app.
That's right. That's right. So yeah. So you see here the instructions in running on this domain here. So we're going to copy this.
Great.
I'm going to copy this and open here. So in this way we can take a look into our app, right? This is very basic, just copy and paste into getting started. And before moving on, I would like just to introduce you the first concept here. That is a core component. What is a core component? It's like everything that is here in the app is a core component. Here is the header, some comments here, or the graphic. And basically the component has five features inside. So first of all is like the name of the component that will define if it's a graphic or if it's a header or something else. The ID, the data that you want to put inside, if it's a text or data for a graphic, the style, so like title, X and Y labels, and the class name. We're going to see that later. So it's more about styling. Where you can find the core components is there is a list of core components here in Plotly Dash tutorial. That is, you can just copy and paste and adjust for your use. For example, there are drop-downs lists available, or multiple pick things, slider, range slider. So yeah, you can take a look later. There's a lot of things here, and basically you have to just copy, paste, and use it. Right. Does everybody have any doubts until now, or can I can move on? Good.
So Adriano, this is totally in JavaScript, right?
It's like a little bit of JavaScript. It looks like JavaScript, but it is run here. Let's see in the beginning what we declare and import is basically a framework that a Plotly build that lies on the top of Flask. Use some React.js on the backend. It's not important here, but the app use it also. And the interactive part is a little bit like a JavaScript. You use a lot of callbacks. We're going to see that later. But yeah, if you are good with JavaScript, think
So
you find
that
it
is
easy. Yeah.
that is something that is new for me, to be honest. Is these callbacks,
Yes.
because it is an interesting interaction of Python and JavaScript, because I know the web part is all Python.
Mhm.
Like the web server part is Python because it's doing Flask and you're coding in Python files. But I think it's basically a Python wrapper around what is actually JavaScript functionality.
Yeah. And to understand that is a little bit tricky. And what I
Yeah.
want to try to do is today is to go like step by step to you save maybe like 4 or 5 days trying to understand how to make work of callback and why something changes after you add in a callback. And so yeah, we're going to see that later, right? Did I answer your question?
Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
sure.
cool,
Thank you.
cool, amazing. Right. So right, as we were seeing, we have like here three components: header, comment, and a graphic. That if we're going to see in the code is here. So basically, you um, initialize the app, type in dash dot dash, and here you declare that you're building your layout. And I'd like to introduce this also components that is used in like web design. There is divisions to let your you let your code be more clean, and you separate it well, and it will be very useful later when we're going to style that. So as we saw in the PowerPoint there, so here's the name of the core component with a graphic, the ID of it, and here data. So here we say to the app what we want them to show. So X, Y, and a bar and a label. So here X, Y, bar and label. So next point is just quickly. First question is how can we add more things to this graphic? For example, we're missing X label, Y label. We want to change this title here. So it all comes into the layout part, and it's not easy as in Matplotlib that you just type few lines. It requires a little bit of more things to add, and a good way to do that is just like um, just searching in Google like how to label a plotly something, and the documentation is really good. Basically, what they have to declare is like x-axis, y-axis. Everything is a dictionary here, so it's good to learn the correct syntax to make it run. I also already did that before, so let me just copy and paste what I prepared here. That is this part of layout here. So let me just understand where it ends. Also notice that this follows the same syntax as plotly, that you have to declare like a figure, and it will be the output of your app. So let's see if I close correctly the all here. Yeah, this one is right. So now we're going to save it, and if it is going to restart automatically, so you don't need to kill the app and run it again. If you make some mistakes, it will tell you that we're not able to compile. For example, if we add one more bracket here, it will run an error because it's like a non-closed bracket. So when you save it, it will say that there is a syntax error. So let's save it back, and then if we made a mistake, we have to run it again. All right, we're able to run it again. And now we can see x-axis and y-axis. What about if you want to style this? See here that I put the x-axis is a career new and Helvetica. You can like see the difference of the font here. You can also increase the size here. But yeah, it's just exploring a little bit that you can do later with this code I'll provide you. So what about if we want to put one more graphic here and to build like a real dashboard with a lot of graphics? So what we can do is like just copy and paste this again. Oh, sorry. No, sorry. I have to take a look where it ends. Oh yeah, it ends here. So if we copy this and put it again here under and run, it will not run because they have the same ID, so it will override that. So let's say example graph 2, and now I'm going to save it, and probably it's going to run again. Yeah, restarting the app. Yeah, now we have 2, right? So
Nice,
yeah,
nice.
any doubts until now?
That is pretty cool. I thought it would take more to just to produce like these multiple graphs,
Right.
but the fact that you're able to like just copy paste a graph like that is fantastic.
Yeah, and for example, let's say now we're going to change the type of graph. So here in the data, we also can say what kind of a graph we want. So let's say if I type line here, and line, and so I already say it and run again. So now we have a line chart, right? So right. So any doubts about everything until now? So I'll move on after that to how to style it, because it's very simple style, and sometimes we don't want something like stacked, a lot of a big graphic stacked. And next step would be put the 2 graphics, one like divide the screen in 2 graphics, one here and one here. So anything, any doubts until now, or I can
So
proceed? Yeah.
basically changing the layout from vertical to horizontal.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So
Okay.
yeah, add some more one functionality. So before doing that, I have just to introduce to you how a web application works, and like a little bit of web design here. I don't know if you're familiar with a concept called Bootstrap Grid, but basically it helps you um, mount your design and layout based on columns. A Bootstrap Grid is a library that you import when you're doing a web page, and it divides usually in 12 columns. So it's very modular. You can pick like 12 one size columns, or 9 and 3, or 6 and 6. You choose. This is one app that I built in the past, so I just took it as an example on how I divided the Bootstrap Grid to style my my app at the time. And also the second part that's very important to you notice that we're going to divide this and say the height of the column, height of the components by determining the row. So this one row is another row, is another row that we're going to use right now. So how can we jump from this to styled part? So first, let me show you how to ident better this, because we just have one division, and it's very useful for us to have one division per row that we're going to use. So one division would be the header. I'm going also to add this ARGO Labs icon here for you to see how to import an image and how to style it in different columns. So what we have to do is add here one more html.div, and the syntax is open round brackets and a square bracket, and close it where you want to end it. So I'm going to close it like right here, and I'm going to indent that just to make it easy for me to visualize that. So yeah, now open and close, and I'm going to do this also to the other parts of of my app. So the graphics will be also inside my division part here. Let me see where it ends. It ends here, and it also ends here. Okay, so I can close it here and also indent well to help us understand it better. So what happens if we run it? Let's see if I didn't make any mistake here. Yeah, apparently not. Yeah, what happens is nothing because we just rewrote the same thing, but now it's easier for us to start styling. For example, now I'm going to add a class, first we have to import the Bootstrap that I was mentioning to you.
So,
Yeah.
Adriana,
Yes.
before we go into that,
Right.
I just want to maybe repeat a little bit of what you just did here.
Okay.
So, what you've done here is essentially you've added a new div to separate out these components.
Yes.
But why? My question is, why is it like a nested div? So you're putting a div inside a div.
Yeah. So it will be clear now, right?
Okay.
Yeah. I'm going to develop something that will make it clear to you. Yeah. It doesn't make sense right now, but when we start working with Bootstrap, it completely makes sense. It's actually necessary to run a good layout. So
Okay.
here I'm going to. Oh yeah, sure. Go ahead, Varun.
Thank you. Please
Yeah.
go ahead.
Okay. So now downloading this CSS that will govern our layout here, and if you enter here in this address, actually, it's interesting to check that there's a lot of classes here inside that will help us. For example, if we use a class of 3 columns, it will give a width of 22%, or 8 columns would be 66.5. Of course, it's like we're going to see how it goes on practice right now, and it will be much clearer to you. So first of all, I'm going to add here to this part. To this part of graphic, the row that I was mentioning to you. So to add a row, we have to just declare class name equals to row, and I'm going to do also that for this other div. It's important to see that it's governing this nested div here. That's also the same as here. And now what we did is dividing this part, the header, as a row, and the graphic as a second row. It will not change here yet, but now when we also include classes into the components, like we did.
And just to clarify, Adriano, when you say class, you're referencing the CSS class.
That's right. That's right. So remember that here I put like a row. I'm saying that this is a row, and now I'm going to say that the graphic has like 6 columns as width, right?
Okay.
So to do that, we just have to import another class here that's called 6 columns. That's very convenient for us. So, and add on at the end of this div here. Oh, let me see what I did here. All right. So yeah, sorry, I forgot that we have to also add another nested div for each graphic that we're going to do, because in this way we can say to the code that we're going to divide that into like 6 columns. So let me do that here. So inside this, another div, and where the graphic ends here. And I'm going to close it. So graphic in here, yeah, and I will close this and this. Okay, it will make sense to you in a moment. Please wait. Be patient. And also going to do this for the next one. Okay, let's just checking if I close all the brackets. Okay, to be faster, I'm going to copy this and substitute this part here. And just close. Yeah, perfect. And also change that to line again. So we will have a bar and line chart. All right, let's see if I run that correctly. And yeah, it should divide. So see, oh my god, what happened? Oh yeah, because I forgot to change the ID here because I copy and paste. So 1 and 2 now.
Every time it's loading, there should be like a drum roll.
Yeah. So yeah, you see, now what we did is like we said this is a row and this is another row, and in this row we divided into 6 class column and 6 column class and a 6 column class. We also can do, for example, oh, I want to instead of a 6 and 6, say 8 and 4. So let's see, this is a 4, and here's 8. And run that. Right, so it's 8 columns here and 4 columns here. So this is how you style. It's like not Tableau, like you drag and drop and resize manually, but this is the way you tell the code how to build the layout of this,
So
right?
I have a question.
Right.
Adriano, is layout? Is it the fact that because when you said rows,
right,
in my head I'm visualizing rows are one after the other, and so vertical layout, right?
right.
But here you're saying there are 2 rows that are layout side by side, right?
No. This is one row. This here in the graphic here. Let's see here. See that this div is the entire row. So this row class,
I see.
Involved,
so it belongs to
yeah,
the same row.
it involves 2 graphics.
Got
right?
it.
Okay.
Got it. Okay.
So yeah, it's a 2 row. But also you can do that and add, as you said, in the Sonic app, I use as 1 row this 3. When you declare, so in this case, you have to create a div here with these 2 and another div with this. So it's basically, yeah, it's the same as you're saying. This is a wrong row and is another row. I just ended up merging all together. But
so what is the div? So basically the div is kind of like a div is a container that contains rows and that contains references to row classes and column
That's
classes.
right. Yeah. So basically, a div will be necessary for you to declare or a row, or if a div inside a div, how many columns you want to allocate for that component. Right? It makes sense?
So that's
Yeah.
one of the reasons there is a nested. So if you can go back to your code for
Yeah.
a second.
Yeah.
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 So that's one of the reasons that you have a nested div is because on one of the divs you are defining the columns, and on the other of the divs you're defining the row
That's
classes.
right. That's right. Yeah.
So then,
So yeah, the global, let's say the global div is a row,
mhm.
and the inside div will tell you how many columns you want to allocate from this row to the defined component.
See, this is the sort of stuff that always gets me, right?
Yeah.
Uh, and I think you took, yeah, I think this amount of time that you spent explaining is so useful because it makes me really think in these kind of structures. Um, Anyway, this is so great so far. So okay,
Yeah.
Gaurav has a question on the chat saying, so the class name represents the size of. So does the class name represent the size of the column?
Yes. Perfect. So because we are using this specific Bootstrap grid, we're taking advantage of the columns that the name of the class that they are telling us. So if you're going to use another Bootstrap grid library, it
Mhm.
also can change the name. For example, I've seen other classes like instead of 4 columns, here people tell like I don't remember the right syntax, but it's like 4MD, and
Right.
it works the same as the 4 columns for our Bootstrap grid here that
So
we're
it's
using.
basically like a reference library that's a kind of a little more human readable reference library of styling variables.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Now, another question I had
Huh?
is now in the CSS, is there a row? You showed all the column classes. Can you also show where the row classes in that CSS?
I don't get your question. If every row.
So in the CSS, you have a class name equals to 4 columns, and you've
Okay.
shown
Okay.
the
Yeah.
4 columns.
Yeah.
Can you show the row class name as well, please?
Oh, row. Let's see. Row. Yeah. So row is. Let's see.
Yeah.
I don't
So
know. I don't know if it's how it make. I'm like not an expert in like Bootstrap Grid. I
yeah.
just get to know, learn a little bit, and I've seen a lot of people using this. What I'm using. That's why I'm using. Like I copy the good examples.
Yeah.
Yeah, but not sure where it define or if I'm just defining something like called row, and it could be like any name, like I don't know, pepper.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I
yeah.
think I think that CSS. I
Hmm.
might be wrong here, and that's
Right.
fine. CSS, it does define row, and
Uh-huh.
it kind of defaults to like a table type layout,
Yeah,
right?
probably. But I don't know.
Okay.
I have to study more to answer clearly that. But yeah, so now what we have is just a simple dashboard that's maybe useful to show someone, but it's like not interactive at all, right? But now what we want to do is, oh, sorry, just a little, a quick addition here. That is how to upload the ARGO Labs logo on the top of the page. So to do that, I also rewrote this first header part in a different way that I can tell you, I can show you that are different ways to declare class names instead of declaring after the div. That's pretty useful for you to see if you're inspecting other people code, um, and find that it's kind of um, let's see, weird as we're same until now. So in this case, we have this div here to say that our first row is a header, but I don't need a nested div to say that this hello Argonaut is will fill like 9 columns and the image will fill 3 columns. I just need to declare here inside the core component. I prefer to do like the div because it is clear to you to debug the code after, and when it starts to be like a huge monster, for example this app I'm going to show you like almost 400 lines, it's much easier for you to find where something starts and something ends. And so running this part here, we're going to see what happens. Right, so we see the logo app here, right? For the logo of the Argo here. Of course, you can style that saying that I want this to be like 7% of height and width of the original source. Like do some paddings and see here. And oh, one thing that is very, very interesting that I want to share with you, and I was amazed when I learned that, is that also this Bootstrap Grid is able to build up some margins here to make your app more beautiful. So this is the key point. It's like offset by 1 column, offset by 1 and 2. I don't know. We're going to use this. I'll show you in a moment to how to put a margin here that makes the app much more beautiful, in my opinion. So just at the end, at the last bracket of the global div, you add something like similar to this. Class name, 10 columns, offset by 1. So basically, on the 12 columns, we're saving 1 column on each side to be a margin. So we're going to work now with 10 columns inside grid. So saving it and running again.
So what you've done here is you've replaced your regular column class with a little more fancy column class, which is offsetting with some margin.
Yeah. So you see that there is a column right now here, and it's like cleaner in my opinion. So we have like this first div that involves all the other divs in the middle.
I see. So right? This is the global div.
Yeah, let's say that the global div has a class that says that 10 columns offset by 1. So basically we can build up everything here based on these like 12 columns, but at the end it will convert these 12 columns into 10 columns.
Got it.
And make it look nicer, right? So let's get back to the 6 and 6. And what I want to do now is to show you how to make it interactive, how we will make it to look like a real dashboard, clicking buttons and changing the graphics. And here comes the fancy stuff right now. So to do that, I have to introduce you what is a callback. That is basically a callback is a function that comes at the end of your code here, and it accepts from you like an input and an output. And an input would be something that changes, and the output would be the ID of the thing that you want to change. For example, the example graph and the example graph 2. And with this, you have to return from this up callback. So the up callback, you have to declare a function that is going to tell what you're going to return. And in this case, is the figure that we already seen. That is the output of this graphic here, right? So basically, we have to return this part to this core component ID. So, but to make interactive, we have to build up the buttons that make this interactive. So I've already built that for us, and I'm going to just copy and paste this. Basically, you can learn this in Dash core components that I've previously showed you. So core components here. And I'm going to use this, let's see what it is. It's a checklist. Yeah, so checklist, this one. We're going to select Montreal, San Francisco, New York, blah, 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 right? So I'm going to copy and paste this part that I've prepared to you. Right under the first, the header part. So we have something in the middle that is going to be like this. Right, so see, now we have this check boxes. That doesn't work because we don't have an app callback right now, but this is how you introduce. So now we have 3 rows. First row is the header, second row is like the selectors, and third row is the graphic. How do you have any doubts until now, or I can proceed to the callback? Good, good, okay, I think it's very good. So let's do now an app callback to update our first graphic. So the app callbacks comes after the last global div of the layout and before this part that runs the app, the initializer of the app. So as I was telling you, is the dependencies will be cities, that is the name of the component that I declared before as a checklist. So the ID is cities. So cities will be the input to output the example graph that we already built in. So what is going to show is what we're going to return, and here is something that will save a lot of time to, because it took me a lot of time to learn, is the format that we have to return the function to show to make the graph works. In this case, it is a list of dictionaries that contains X, Y, type, and name of the component. So for each bar here or each line, what plotly dash reads is the X, is dictionary with X, Y, name, and the type. In this case bar, in this case line. So for this, we're initializing an empty list and saying if San Francisco is selected in the selector, we're going to append this information. And if Montreal is selected in the selector, we're going to append another line to the list that is a dictionary containing the Montreal information. So going back to the cities here, which I feel that I didn't explain so well, apologies for that, is for this car component of this checklist, there is the ID, as we see, and there are the options. And the options here is what we see in the screen, that is San Francisco, and the value that the code already is going to see. So SF and MT. It could be the same, like San Francisco and San Francisco, Montreal and Montreal. But in this case, I just ended up choosing different values to see that it doesn't need to match. And here values will tell you what values is going to be selected when you initialize the app for the first time. And displays inline block, I just want to tell the app that it's going to be sequential instead of one on the top of another. So let's see and run this and see if, oh sorry, have to save it and run it again. And see if it works. All right, sounds good. So now, if we select Montreal or just select that, is basically the app callback will activate anytime that we select something because we say that this is an input. And it will, if Montreal is selected, we're going to append this and show that here, right? But, so any doubts until now about this? Good? We're
Yeah.
good?
Can you go back to the code for a second?
Yes.
Piano? Yeah. Okay. So just want to take a step back
Okay.
and do like so far. I think you covered minutes or 45 minutes, right?
Yeah.
So what we have kind of done is we have created two graphs, we've copy pasted two graphs, we've changed the layouts, you've explained the Bootstrap CSS terminology,
Right.
and now we're talking about interactivity.
Yes.
The main thing for interactivity is this kind of like section of the code.
Right.
Before it was mostly layout and components, and that is kind of defined in a completely different section of the code. But when you are dealing with interactivity, it's all contained within the app.callback
Yes.
section of the code.
Right.
And I'm just repeating what you've said here, but kind of summarizing it a little bit. But what if you can go back, can you go down to the callback, please?
Yes.
A second, yeah. So here you're saying dash.dependencies output is the actual the cities and values which have been defined earlier.
That's right. That's right.
Right, and then you're essentially defining like a Python, a fairly regular Python function, right? Which is update image source, and when that function is called, it's basically accepting a value from the checklist.
That's right. That is declared here, value, and I name here as selector.
Got it. And can you show me the selector again, please?
Yes. So selector here is the cities that we declared before, and the value is this, right?
So where you're not declaring it as selector. Okay.
Right.
Got it.
Yeah, because you see, actually, I can put any name that I want here. For example, if I say this is S.
That's a function argument.
Yeah, right. So I just have to say S here, right?
Correct. But what is, where are you calling this function? Can you show me where you're calling update image source?
Oh, no, it's just a function that I just named right now. It could be like graph1. It doesn't matter actually. It basically it's like a function that the app callback will call, and we're not calling it anywhere. It just works for this callback.
So the app callback is almost like a main. It's almost like a main function, and already called without explicitly calling them.
That's right. That's right. So yeah, for example, we changed this name here, and you'll see that the functionality will not change at all, because it's just a name, right? And you said a good point here that, so just recap a little bit how we used to build the graphic in the past. That is, telling this inside, like figure contains data and layout, and we are telling that to this component that this is the data and this is the layout, and we're going to say the same here. So in this case,
I see,
we don't need that anymore. So what we need here for this part is just the ID. You see that if I erase this and save it and run, it will work as the same. Because what is governing now, what we're going to show, is this callback part. That part is declaring what data we're going to say. It's useful for non-interactive one. But after declaring callbacks, you don't need to do that anymore. This is what confuses a lot of people when doing callbacks, because it just see like this ID and see, oh, okay, you're declaring the ID in a graphic, but what where the data that you input into this graph, and the
Correct.
answer is in the callback.
I see. Oh,
Right?
so that I think is a very important.
Yeah.
It's a very important distinct element here. So in the callback, can you show me where you're actually referencing the example, the first graph?
Yeah.
Uh,
So basically, it says when I say output is example graph, it you
I
understand that this information goes to this component,
got it.
right?
Okay, got it. Okay, that clarifies so
Yeah.
much. Just spending some additional time
Yeah.
here clarifies.
And I'm glad you asked that. Thank you for the questions. And if anyone have on the other question, is like very nice, because for me it's like natural to do that, but for the first timer it's like very hard to understand. So that's why I decided to do like from the very beginning how to do a static graphic and how to introduce callback and see which part of the core component changes when you add a callback, which I believe took me like 2 or 3 days to understand how it was working, right?
Yeah,
So to
thank you for
yeah,
spending your time and frustration.
thanks, Varun. Is a pleasure. And so to reinforce our learning here, I would like to do that again, but for the second graph, right? Because
Yeah.
our app right now just updates the first one. So what about this? How can we make this also change with this selector? So, and it's actually very simple. If we copy and paste this callback here, and actually change the output to example graph 2, and of course change here for line that we were using before, it work.
But before you run it,
Right.
delete
Yeah,
the.
I'll delete this.
Yeah.
So everything here. So let me just see where it ends. Yeah, it ends here. So going to delete until here. Right. So saved. We're starting. Oops. And so yeah, now it works, right?
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I know now I have the last example that I brought today. That is how to make it make working a callback that changes another callback functions. For example, what if we have a lot of cities here in US and Canada, and we have another selector saying like Canada and United States.
Mm-hmm.
And when I click in Canada, I just show the cities on Canada. And then
Mm-hmm.
when we select the cities of Canada, it changes the graphic. So basically, it would be like something that changes here, right? So my intention now is building this and showing how to build more complex logic. Then this concept will be useful for you to build a lot of other stuff in the future, just by exploring that. So first, let's add inside this row of the selectors another selector, right? Another class of selector that I also already previously built here. And here I'm going to push you a little further on how to write more Pythonic code and make your code cleaner. So first, I would like to put this here. That is going to be a country ID selector. And I choose a different one now that is called radio items. That is just like the other one, but we are obligated to select just one instead of a multiple selector. So here, instead of us saying this is the label I'm going to show you, I'm going to get a label from external source. That is the dictionary that I built here to help us. So these are the options that I built, and I'm going to declare at just the beginning here as the data. So I will have like, oh, America, it's like US, US, Canada, and all. And this all options data is what I'm going to load here, all options keys. So basically it will read all the options there and tell us and show us. So let's just run here and see what happens. Right, so now we have this, right? We have another selector one. So just reinforcing this, that we also declared here like 6 columns for this and 6 columns for this. This is why it's divided here in the middle. If we have a lot, we could say like 4, 4, and 4, and we have 3 selectors, so and so on.
Adriano,
Yes.
can you show the interactivity again, please? I think I missed that.
Interactive what?
So just whatever, yeah. Can you show that again, please?
Yeah. So you mean changing this? Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't change yet because we didn't put in a callback, right? I'm just adding the new component before creating a callback. Right?
Please continue.
Yeah. So what we want to do is to change here this and show in different cities here. I know that our data now, we just have San Francisco and Montreal, but I'm going to add more cities. And when we click on this, nothing will happen, but we will make it happen later. So for this, I also created, oh no, let's do this first, sorry. So to do this callback here, I'm going to paste and introduce a different callback here that accept as input the country and output the cities. So just doing that, let's see what happens. So now we have some interactive things, right? When we have all the cities. When we have US, we have the US cities. And Canada, we have the Canada cities.
That's so awesome.
Right?
That's
crazy. Amazing, right? So of course when we click in New York City, we don't have the data for New York City, so nothing happens. But so
that's really cool, man.
Yeah, it's a
okay, does anybody have any? I think we're crossing the 1 hour mark here, and Adriano, this is you've delivered an excellent kind of lecture here.
Thanks.
I 2 months back, right? Yeah. So I had just recently moved to Boulder from New York, and I asked you to kind of start, picking up Dash and kind of repurposing our Tableau dashboards using Dash. And I think in 2 months' time, you've kind of become like a pretty good, crazy expert at Dash and visualization. To the point that I believe that you've been using Dash for your own sort of consulting projects, right?
Yes.
So I'm really happy that this worked out for you, and appreciate it. Any questions? Any technical questions right now? I know that this is being recorded, and then I know I'm going to just continue watching this video maybe 4 or 5 times and kind of starting to build my own small dashboards and stopping using Tableau for some of this stuff and just building like these open source dashboards.
I actually had a question regarding the server.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So for now, you're running your dashboard on a local server. So can
That's right.
we change configuration on something and make it public?
Yeah. So we have like more 30 minutes. That's right.
Yeah.
I'm going to so finish if this everything here. We're almost at the end. I think more 10 or 15 minutes we're done. And after that, I'll comment how to deploy that in Heroku to make it public. So
Oh,
it's very useful because you can share that with some potential employers, or even you work inside an organization, you can upload that in a private URL and make it public just to your people. So yeah, good question, and I'm going to mention that after.
oh, thank
Right?
you.
Amazing. So you also notice, like me, that now this part is not working anymore, right? We are clicking in like Montreal and San Francisco is not changing anything else. And I made it that like purposely. I don't know if this word exists, but yeah. So what just changed right now is because the way I'm telling right now the components here, it's also changed. So before we're declaring these selectors here, that is like San Francisco gives a value of SF and Montreal gives a value of MT. And right now, as we did for the graphic, we don't need that anymore actually. This part of options here, because who is doing this part for us is the callback. It's returning the options. So, and this to automate our code, it's giving this label and the value as the same value. So in this case, our if should be San Francisco and Montreal. Montreal here. So now, San Francisco and Montreal, let me do it again here. So right, and now we don't have anything selected right now, but now it's working. And why we don't have anything selected is because I forgot to change also this part of SF and MT to San Francisco and Montreal. All right, now it should be come with all selected and everything working. But yeah, let's just load that before moving on. Yeah, now it's selected, already selected. So right now we're making it work. Of course, I can build more logics to when clicking US automatically just select Montreal, but I haven't right now. But it's definitely doable. So last thing that I want to share with you is that this is fun. This is like very interesting and impressive to show someone. But honestly, this dashboard is not effective in real life because it's like unbelievable for you to build like an if statement for each option that you have in the graphic. So we should think about a way to make it more automate. And what if we have like 100 cities? We're going to have to put like 100 if statements here. That is definitely not a good point. So to make it work better, I also thought about a different way to show that, and I create a new kind of a data set here, just like a dictionary showing the name of the cities and the data. It could be also be metadata frames. something like this, but in this case it's just a small data set, so I decided to do it manually, and I'm going to paste that and show you how to make it automatic, that if on the bottom in the callbacks. So basically for that, instead of saying if, I'm going to say for each city selecting the selector, I'm going to append the X corresponding to each city, the Y corresponding to each city, and here's the line, and is something that is inherent to the callback, and the name will be also city. So copying these two callbacks that changes the two graphics, and replacing here. So I don't need to do it manually, all the points. What we have is what we also had in the past, but now we can add stuff here, right? Without needing this, like the if, to append the cities that we want. So yeah,
Coding like a boss.
yeah, it's like just trying to show you how to make things more useful for real life. And this is so with this I end like the tutorial that I prepared for you guys right now. I know that is like so far from the other examples that we saw. That one required like a lot of work, maybe 2, 3, or maybe a week or 2 weeks of work to make everything match and work. For example, let me show you something that I built to you. It's my first app actually, and is the thing that taught me everything. And also, as you were mentioning, like 2 months ago, you asked me to do that, and I'm very grateful for this request, because it opens a lot of doors for me. I mean, being good at this made me that it's made possible to show very good things to other people, and to build like a portfolio for myself. Also to understand a lot of good things that I never thought about, like Flask, like web design in Python, and learning Bootstrap, learning, I don't know, web design, something like this. So,
I really think that you're a full stack data person now, with after doing Dash and following these examples. You get front end knowledge, you get back end, get cloud knowledge. It's pretty great.
yeah, it was amazing experience, very challenging but totally rewarding. So this is the app that I built to you, and like just showing this is like
So I'll provide some context here.
Right.
So this is actually our social impact project. So when Patrick, myself, and in the spring semester of CUSP in 2015, this was our project of building a decision support system for the expansion of after-school programs in New York City. And we had we've done a lot of like data parsing and data scraping and collecting and all that stuff. And then we eventually made like a Tableau dashboard, which is on the ARGO blog. So I had asked Adriano to sort of repurpose that example. I mean, that was a fully baked sort of example, but I asked him to use that as an example to build up his Dash knowledge, and repurpose each of the UI components that we built in Tableau, and kind of express them as Dash components. So that's the context for this particular app.
Yeah, thanks Varun for introduction. It's like at the first sight it was a very challenging one, but it turns out to be a very nice thing to build. Basically here, like just you can explore that later, but here I have basically what I told you, what I showed you is like a header, the image here, some selectors. So here's like a grid of 6 and then 2 and 2 and 2. Here like 6 and 6. Here I introduce also like a map with a map box, which I didn't have chance to cover because it's a little bit more advanced than what I wanted to show you, like this like small graphics and how to work with the callbacks. Also, if you'd like, I can do another session to show how to work with maps with Mapbox API, and also build this table that is very interesting because it, for example, our target here was showing the need score to provide funding to New York City schools. So if we select here an order, and also the histogram orders accordingly. You can filter rows. So let's say we want here, like, I don't know, DOE.
That is new functionality. That is something to do stuff like this in Tableau,
Right.
where you're sorting one data object and it's automatically sorting the other database object on the same dashboard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, phone. Sorry, I just agreed.
No, please
Yeah.
finish.
No,
Finish.
it's just yeah, and to do this is like incredibly complicated to find out a way to synchronize this. But after you know how to do, like how to manipulate well, it's getting to be very easy later. Also, you can do and select here just the low here do we need, or I just select maybe like Brooklyn, yeah, Manhattan and Bronx. So it all like interactive. When I select one, it updates the table, that updates the histogram, and updates the map. And this callbacks can be a little bit complex to do, but everything starts with these foundations here. That is understand well how callbacks update each core component, and what are the information that you have to tell in the return function to make it work. I know if I didn't mention that, but it's very useful for you to when you start learning print statements. Like, for example, I know what returns when I select something. So let's say like print selector. And when we run this app here, and yeah, let me load. Yeah, and we start selecting here. We also we can see here that it's printing like a list with the cities. So in this way, we can figure out how we can run this for loop and what we are going to expect from this city that actually is the string. But sometimes it's a whole dictionary that you have to do, like city and put like the keys here, something like this, or inside the for loop. So very useful tip that saved me also a lot of time and made me understand better. Yeah, here just showing to you how other things that we didn't explore right now. This is like basically this is a bar graph, this like this, but I added some things to make it functional in function like a histogram, and you can select here and it's showing the map selected once, and also select here in the graphic the selected rows, yeah, here. So yeah, just showing up and answering the question you asked me before. It's deployed in Heroku, so it's like anyone can take a look.